The Blood Sisters. In a quiet corner of Enugu, not far from Ogwe Road, stood a row of old bungalows with rusted zinc roofs and wide verandas that caught the evening breeze. It was the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew everyone, from Mama Nkechi, the akara seller, to Baba Uchi, the mechanic whose radio never stopped playing high-life music. Life was slow, predictable, and full of little joys. It was in this humble setting that two girls, Amarachi and Ifoma, met at the tender age of 5. Amarachi was a lively one, always running around in oversized slippers, her face streaked with dust, her braids flying behind her like flags. Ifoma, on the other hand, was the quiet type. She had just moved in with her family from Nsukka. Her mother had secured a teaching job at the local primary school, and her father, a retired civil servant, spent his days reading newspaper on the veranda. Their first meeting wasn't anything dramatic. Amarachi had spotted Ifoma standing by the gate of their new compound, holding a pink water bottle and looking lost. With all the boldness a 5-year-old could carry, Amarachi marched up to her and said, "My name is Amarachi. Do you want to come and play?" And that was it. From that day, they became inseparable, like bread and butter, garri and granuts. Wherever you saw Amarachi, you saw Ifoma. They fetched water together, they chased after ice cream men together, and even got flogged together when they snuck out to go and watch cartoons at Mama Ejima's house. Their parents quickly became friends, mostly because the girls left them no choice. If Amarachi was not sleeping over at Ifoma's house, then Ifoma was spending the weekend at Amarachi's. Their mother would laugh and say, "These ones don't know they are not strings." Even their birthdays were close. Amarachi was born in June. Ifoma was born in July. They always insisted on throwing one big party, usually in their compound, with chin-chin in nylon bags, 2 bottles of Fanta, and a cake that looked like it had seen better days. But they were happy, and happiness back then was easy as running under a rain or eating hot moi moi with pap on a Sunday morning. As they grew older, their bond only deepened. They enrolled in the same primary school, Christ the King Nursery Primary School, and were always placed in the same class. Ifoma was the sharp one in books. She could read a whole comprehension passage and answer all the questions before Amarachi could finish throwing her biro. But Amarachi had mouth. She could talk herself out of any punishment, and sometimes even Ifoma's too. When they got to primary 5, the headmistress called them mirror twins. If Ifoma cried, Amarachi cried. If Amarachi was sick, Ifoma would start complaining of headache. Teachers knew better than to separate them during class or punish one and leave the other. But life, as it often does, had plans that they didn't see coming. When Amarachi was 10, her father died suddenly. Stroke, they said. He had just returned from work, sat down to eat, and collapsed. 1 minute, he was there. The next, he wasn't. The funeral was blow for Amarachi. Her uncles came and started talking about property. Her mother, strong as always, held the family together, but it was Ifoma who became her rock. Throughout the burial week, Ifoma refused to go home. She slept beside Amarachi, held her when she cried at night, and stood like a soldier whenever anyone tried to speak harshly at her friend. "Don't worry," she whispered once, rubbing Amarachi's back. "I'm not going anywhere." And she didn't. In primary 6, both girls prepared for common entrance exams like their life depended on it. Every evening, after lessons, they'd sit under the mango tree and quiz each other. "Who is the president of Nigeria?" Amarachi would ask. "Oga Obasanjo," Ifoma would shout back. They swore they would attend the same secondary school, live in the same hostel, and maybe even marry brothers so they could live in the same house forever. They didn't know how serious life would become later. For now, all that mattered was each other. One evening, as they lay on a mat outside, staring at the stars, sipping zobo, Ifoma asked, "Do you think we'll still be best friends when we grow up?" Amarachi giggled and rolled her eyes. "We'll be best friends till we die. Even our children will be best friends." They touched pinky fingers under the sky, sealing a childish vow. "No boy, no money, no wahala will break us," they said in unison. They had no idea how strong or how weak such a promise could be. Secondary school brought its own wahala. Amarachi and Ifeoma had managed to get admitted into the same government girls' secondary school in Enugu. It wasn't fancy, but it was well known for producing good WAEC results. Their parents agreed that if they stayed focused and avoided distraction, university would be next step. But of course, distractions were everywhere, especially the kind that wore trousers and sprayed perfume like water. By GSS2, boys from nearby boys' schools had started hanging around their gates after school hours. They had sent notes through classmates, whispered sweet nonsense at the fence, and promised heaven on top of gala and coke. Amarachi was the first to enjoy all the attention. With her fine skin, dimples, and confident walk, she drew eyes like sugar drew ants. Ifeoma was beautiful too, tall, dark, with full lips and serious eyes, but she was the shy one, while Amarachi laughed loudly and danced during school socials. Ifeoma preferred to sit quietly and read romance novels. Still, they moved as one. Ifeoma didn't like parties, but she would go because Amarachi wanted her there. Amarachi didn't care much for books, but she sat through late-night studies because Ifeoma made it fun with snacks and stories. They covered for each other when needed, whether it was sneaking out to borrow makeup from seniors or escaping punishment for late-night gisting. Their classmates used to say, "This too, not only heaven go secrete then, but even heaven must test loyalty." By SS1, things changed slightly. Amarachi started dating a boy named Chinedu from the boys' school nearby. He was funny and bold, the kind that could toast a girl in front of her father and still survive. Amarachi was head over heels. At first, Ifeoma didn't mind. She teased Amarachi and helped her write sweet text messages on their shared Nokia touch phone. But as time passed, Amarachi started changing. She became distant, skipped night prep to make midnight calls, spent weekends ironing special outfits just in case Chinedu showed up. And Ifeoma, she felt left behind. One day, after school, they had their first real argument. "You don't gist with me again. You don't tell me anything again," Ifeoma said quietly, arms folded. "Because you don't understand, you're always judging me," Amarachi snapped. "Me? Judging you? I was the one that covered for you when you kissed him behind the classroom." They didn't speak for 2 days, their first silence in almost 10 years. But Chinedu eventually cheated. As most secondary boys do, it was Ifeoma who brought the news. "I saw him with Chinaza from SS3. He even bought her meat pie." Amarachi didn't believe her at first. She accused Ifeoma of jealousy. But the next week, she caught them red-handed. She cried for 3 days straight. Ifeoma held her throughout. "I warned you," she whispered. "I know," Amarachi sobbed. That fight and reconciliation only made them stronger. They promised no boy again until after university, and they kept their vow. WAEC came. They studied like their lives depended on it. Ifeoma focused on science and business subjects, Amarachi on arts and literature. They passed well. Amarachi got into the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, for mass communication. Ifeoma got into UNIZIK, Awka, for accounting. It was their first time living in different cities. The distance wasn't easy. No more walking to school together or whispering at night under mosquito nets. But they called each other every night, shared gossip about hostel life, annoying lecturers, and new friends. When Amarachi had her first period of depression in 200 level, after a lecturer failed her unjustly, Ifeoma came down from Awka just to spend the weekend with her. When Ifeoma's father fell ill in final year, it was Amarachi who stayed with her through hospital nights, sleeping on her bench and holding her hand during the burial. They graduated together, took NYC together, were even posted to the same batch. Amarachi in Lagos, Ifeoma in Ogun. They visited each other on weekends, danced at Mami markets, and prayed for the hustle to favor them. One day, after passing out from NYC, they sat on a bench near Ojota Park, sipping pure water. "What now?" Amarachi asked, her voice low. "I don't know," Ifeoma replied. You think Zedis Lagos go favor us? Amarachi asked. He has to, Ifoma replied. Then Amarachi said what both of them were thinking. Let's move in together and chase this Lagos dream together now. Abia you see him. And Ifoma nodded. We started together. Let's blow together. They sealed the promise with a pinky shake, just like they did under the mango tree when they were kids. Only this time, they were no longer children. And Lagos, unlike Enugu, was not a place that smiled at friendship. Lagos was a monster with flashing lights. It welcomed Amarachi and Ifoma with roaring Danfo buses, endless traffic, and shout of "Owa" from Agberos, who looked like they hadn't smiled since Obasanjo left office. But the girls didn't care. They were young, hungry, and foolishly hopeful. They moved into a self-contained room in Ogba. It was small, just one mattress, 2 plastic chairs, and a fan that only worked when NEPA decided to show mercy. But to them, it was freedom. It was the beginning of the dream. Amarachi landed a job at a radio station as a production assistant. The pay was rubbish, but she loved the energy, the sound of jingles, the smell of studio foam. She hoped to be on air someday. Ifoma, on the other hand, joined a small accounting firm in Ikeja, doing mostly data entry and filling tax documents. Her boss was strict, but she saw it as a stepping stone. They woke up at 4:30 a.m. every weekday. Amarachi would iron clothes, while Ifoma boiled water on their tiny kerosene stove. They took turns in the bathroom, wore second-hand corporate clothes from Yaba markets, and ran to catch a bus before 6 a.m. You all change, one would ask. I go manage, the other would reply. Every evening, they'd return home, remove wigs, loosen bras, and laugh at the madness of Lagos. Sometimes, they fought over silly things: who didn't wash plates, who used the last sachet of milk, who finished Indomie without replacing it, but their quarrels never last more than a day. Na hunger dey vex you, Amarachi would say. No be hunger, at this Lagos, Ifoma would ease. Still, they endured together. Weekends were for bonding, Saturdays were for market runs and cleaning. Sundays, they dressed up and attend church, not always for God, but sometimes to look sharp and meet people. Other times, they'd stay at home, eat jollof rice from the nearest buka, and gossip about work, their dreams, and their lives they wished to live. They didn't have much, but they had each other. One Sunday afternoon after church, they sat on the floor, eating boiled yam with palm oil and pepper. Babe, Amarachi said, licking her fingers, sometimes I dey fear say this Lagos fit swallow us. Ifoma looked up, her mouth full, but we go survive. I no come this life to suffer. They laughed and made another silent promise, no matter what, we move. Then came the turning point. One evening, Amarachi met a man. His name was Chuka. She had gone to cover an event for a radio station, some tech networking party in Victoria Island. She wasn't even meant to be there. Her oga just said, go and get sound bites. She did, but she also got his attention. Chuka was smooth, dark, tall, with the kind of beard that looked sculpted. He wore a white senator that smelled like wood and money. His wristwatch looked like something only Yahoo boys wore, but he had the presence of someone legit. Hello, my name is Chuka, he said, holding out his hand. You must be Amarachi. I listened to your station this morning. She blushed. She wasn't even on air. They talked. He was charming, knew how to listen, and didn't talk too much about himself, just enough to sound important. At the end of the night, he asked for her number. She gave it to him. By the next week, they were talking every day. Then came dates, sushi restaurants, lounges in Lekki, and surprise gifts delivered by dispatch riders. Amarachi didn't even know she started dressing better, smiling more, fuming while cooking. Ifoma noticed. You dey shine, you this girl, she said one morning. As Amarachi sprayed perfume, who be the guy now, tell me? Amarachi smiled, but didn't say much. He's just a friend, though. Ifoma didn't push. She was happy for her friend. At least one of them had escaped the sufferhead. A few weeks later, Ifoma met someone too, through a client at work. He came to fix some issues with his company's tax clearance and ended up chatting with her longer than expected. He was calm, intelligent and successful. His name? Chuka. He introduced himself as a business consultant who dabbled in tech. He wore glasses, had a deep voice, and spoke like someone who had schooled abroad. He didn't flirt much. He was more subtle, respectful, and gentle. That drew Ifeoma in. She didn't tell Amarachi either. Something about it felt too new, too fresh. Besides, they hadn't been discussing men lately. Amarachi had become busier. Her mood would swing. Some nights, she would be laughing on the phone. Other nights, she would sit on the balcony and stare into the distance. They were slowly growing apart, but neither of them noticed. Or maybe they did, and they didn't just want to face it. By the third month, both of them were deeply in love with Chuka, without knowing it was the same man. He played his role perfectly. To Amarachi, he was the bold, confident lover who loved her wild spirit. To Ifeoma, he was a quiet, caring man who respected her brains. He told Amarachi he traveled often for business. He told Ifeoma he wasn't good with social media or photos. He told both of them, I'm not ready to define us yet. Let's just enjoy each other for now. And they agreed, because love, when it starts sweet, makes even the red flags look like decoration. Then came the weekend that changed everything. A random Saturday, Amarachi went through Chuka's phone while he was in the bathroom, not because she suspected anything, but because she wanted to check the music playlist. And here it was, a message from Ify with hearts. She froze, opened the chat, saw photos, long messages, voice notes. She listened, and she knew that voice. She knew it too well. Amarachi couldn't breathe. The message stared back at her like a slap. Good night, baby. I miss you already, with a kissing emoji. Sent just last night from Ify, not Ifeoma, not a son name. Just Ify, her Ify. Her hands trembled as she tapped the chat. Voice notes, pictures, giggly images, and then her voice. That voice. Amarachi didn't guess a second. She knew that voice like her own heartbeat. She dropped the phone on the bed like it burned her. Chuka came out of the bathroom towel around his waist, humming an R&B tune. You okay? He asked Amarachi casually, reaching for his lotion. Amarachi forced a smile. Yeah, I'm just tired. He nodded. Let me order something for us. Chinese? She nodded again, but her heart was drowning in silence. Back in Ogba that evening, Amarachi sat on the floor, knees put to her chest. The generator outside their window hummed like an angry bee. The room was dark, save for the lights from her phone. Ifeoma was in the kitchen, boiling rice, singing softly. Amarachi watched her. Her friend, her sister, the girl who once stole garri from her aunt's kitchen so they could eat during secondary school. How? How could they both fall in love with the same man? And worse, how could he not know? Chuka with his private excuses. Chuka who always refused to take photos, who liked to keep things on the low. He had played them both beautifully like a Nollywood actor in a dual role. But the ache in Amarachi's chest wasn't heartbreak. It was confusion. Should she tell Ifeoma? Would she even believe it? And more than that, what would it break? They had built their entire life together in this city, shared meals, dreams, one mattress, one bedroom. They were each other's anchor in a sea of Lagos madness. Was this man what's destroying all that? The next few days brought into routine. They woke up at 4:30 a.m., just like always, took turns using the bathroom, ironed clothes, caught the early bus. Your guy no call last night, Ifeoma asked on Wednesday, stirring sugar into pap. Amarachi shrugged. He traveled. Ah, same here. Ifeoma replied, yawning, this Lagos man safe. Amarachi stared at her, that soft, trusting face. She wanted to scream. Instead, she reached for the flask and poured tea. Chuka called later that night. You've been quiet, babe. Is everything okay? Amarachi stared at her ceiling. I'm fine. I'm just tired. Are you sure? She wanted to confront him to ask why Ifeoma, why both of us. But instead, she said, I need space. Work is stressing me. Then okay, just don't disappear, yeah? He said. She ended the call without replying. Days passed. She watched Ifoma closely now. How she smiled at her phone. How she sometimes fumed after reading a message. How she'd stay on the balcony late at night texting. She saw it all, and it hurt. But still, she said nothing. One Friday evening, Ifoma came home, glowing. Babe, she grinned, dumping her bag on the floor. You no go believe wetin happen. Amarachi looked up from the pot of beans she was stirring. My guy sent a delivery to my office. Perfume, real one, not those Lagos fakes. She pulled out the small box, almost dancing. Can you imagine? I didn't even ask. Amarachi smiled weakly. That's nice. You see why I say I like him. He's different. Amarachi stirred the pot harder, her eyes stinging. That night, she couldn't sleep. The fan groaned in the corner, pushing hot air. She stared at the ceiling, her mind heavy. How did they get here? They had promised no man would come between them. But a man had come, and the truth was clawing at her chest. She didn't even know what hurt more, the betrayal or the silence. Saturday morning came with heat and haze. They cleaned the house, did laundry, cooked rice. Ifoma played music on her phone while Amarachi swept, but there was a tension neither of them named. By afternoon, Ifoma was dressing up. Are you going out? Amarachi asked. Yeah, just a lunch date. Might be back late though. Amarachi replied, okay. Amarachi wanted to ask, is it him? Is it Chuka you're going to see? But her lips stayed sealed. When the door shut behind Ifoma, the silence screamed louder than words. She caught Chuka that evening. No greeting, no small talk. Just, you know Ifoma. There was a pause. What? Chuka replied. My best friend, my roommate, do you know her? There was a long silence. What are you talking about? Chuka asked. Amarachi laughed, bitter and cracked. I saw the messages, Chuka. I heard her voice. You've been dating both of us. Wait, what? Amarachi, hold on, Chuka said. You didn't know we were friends? She asked. I swear to God I didn't know, Chuka replied. She could hear the panic in his voice, the cracks, the scrambled. I met you separately. I met her differently. I didn't even know your full name at first. You never told me you lived with someone. Amarachi covered her face. It was true. She had never said much about her private life. They had both been secrets to each other. Chuka kept talking. Please believe me, I didn't plan this. I swear on my life. She hung up. That night, Ifoma returned glowing again. New earrings, a new scent. She sat on the bed, kicked off her heels. Babe, she said, stretching. I think I'm falling now. Amarachi nodded and whispered, me too. But her voice was hollow, because what Ifoma didn't know was that everything had already cracked, and Amarachi didn't know if she would be able to fix it. It had been 2 weeks since Amarachi found out, 2 weeks of silence, of pretending, of waking up beside a girl who didn't know the walls were closing in. She wanted to tell her. Every time Ifoma laughed, every time she said this guy is different, every time she started a sentence with my baby said, Amarachi's chest burned, but the words never came out. She told herself she was protecting her friend, but deep down she was protecting herself too. From the fallout, from the shame, from the question. She couldn't answer. Why didn't you say something the moment you knew? Then came the night everything snapped. It was a Friday evening, hot and noisy in the room. The fan had stopped working midweek. Anepa had gone on another nationwide ghosting spree. Ifoma was lounging on the bed, scrolling through Instagram, legs crossed in a pink wrapper. Amarachi sat on the floor beside the kerosene stove, turning a pot of spaghetti. Guess what? Ifoma said, grinning. Amarachi didn't answer. He said he's taking me to Radisson Blu on Sunday. Still no reply. I've never been to that kind of place before. This guy did bust my head, I swear. Ifoma frowned. You know they're happy for me. Amarachi looked up slowly. Her eyes were dull, tired. How long have you been seeing him? Ifoma blinked. Who? Your guy. Like 2 to 3 months now. Why? Does he know your full name? Of course. Where you live? Yeah, I mean, Not exact address, but I told him Oba. Amarachi stared at her. His name is Chuka, isn't it? Ifeoma froze. How you take no? The room became a tomb. Amarachi stood up, walked to the table, opened her drawer, brought out Chuka's birthday card, the one he had written for her last week. She handed it over. Ifeoma opened it, confused. Her eyes scanned the words, "To my golden voice Amarachi, my Lagos light." Silence, then realization, then rage. Ifeoma's voice cracked. "What is this?" "He's been seeing both of us," Amarachi said quietly. "You and me. Since when?" "I found out 2 weeks ago. Saw your messages on his phone." Ifeoma's hands shook. "And you didn't tell me?" Amarachi swallowed hard. "I couldn't. I didn't know how to." The pot on the stove hissed and overflowed, unnoticed. Ifeoma's face twisted. "So what were you doing these past 2 weeks? Laughing with me, pretending, watching me talk about him like a fool." "It wasn't like that." "No." "Then what was it like?" Her voice rose. "You let me keep falling for him. You let me dream." Her voice broke. She sat down hard on the mattress, covering her face. "I didn't want to hurt you," Amarachi said softly. "But you did. You did hurt me," Ifeoma snapped, lifting her face. "And the worst part is you let me walk blind into it." Amarachi opened her mouth, then closed it. There were no words. For days, they barely spoke. The air in their small room grew cold, sharp, heavy, unspoken things. They still woke up 4:30 a.m., still ironed clothes, still cut the bus, but now, silence sat between them, like a third roommate. No jokes, no laughter, no who change. Just quiet. Even weekends lost their joy. The buka rides, the church dresses, the gossip sessions, all gone. Amarachi spent more time at the station. Ifeoma started sleeping in the office. One evening, Chuka called again. "Amarachi, please," he said. She said nothing. "I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't. You never posted her. She never posted you. I didn't see it coming." Chuka said, "You don't get to explain," she replied. "You lied. You manipulated. You chose this." "I didn't choose anything. I met 2 amazing women. I was careless. I was greedy, but I never meant to hurt you. You hurt both of us." Then silence came. Then Chuka said, "Can I fix it?" Amarachi laughed bitterly. "No, go fix yourself." She blocked his number. That night, she sat on the balcony, staring at the street lights. The city moved below her, restless, loud, alive, and she felt like a ghost. Ifeoma came out. Moments later, sat on the other end of the bench, no words. The silence stretched between them. "I should have told you," Amarachi whispered. Ifeoma didn't look at her. "You should have." "I didn't know how to. I panicked. I was angry. I was hurt too," Amarachi said. Ifeoma blinked slowly. "He told me I was his peace, that I was the one who calmed him," Ifeoma said. Amarachi smiled bitterly. "He told me I was his fire." They sat like that for a long time. 2 girls, 2 broken hearts, 1 man. "I ended it," Ifeoma said suddenly. Amarachi turned to her. "The day after you told me, I blocked him. I cursed him. I cried for 2 nights. Amarachi reached out, touched her hand. "I'm sorry." Ifeoma squeezed it. "I'm sorry too." And just like that, something mended. Not fully, not clean, but enough. They didn't magically return to normal. Trust doesn't grow back in a day. But they started again, slowly, one day at a time. They threw out Chuka's perfume bottles, deleted his photos, broke his pages, laughed at the situation. "Imagine us fight over a man in this Lagos," Amarachi joked. Ifeoma shook her head. "Men are mad though, but we were madder." And they laughed. Not the old kind of laughter, but a new one, softer, wiser. He hadn't just played them. He had tested their bond. And even though cracks remained, they chose to stay, to heal, to forgive, not for him, but for each other.